Jim Plunkett. When the New England Patriots drafted Jim Plunkett first overall in 1971, he was billed as the next great franchise quarterback. A Heisman Trophy winner from Stanford, his arm strength and poise made scouts believe he could be the face of the league. But reality came quickly. Playing behind a poor offensive line, Plunkett was sacked repeatedly and never lived up to the hype in New England. By 1975, his numbers told the story. 25 touchdowns and 43 interceptions in his first 3 years. The Patriots moved on, and after a failed stint in San Francisco, the once-coveted #1 pick was labeled a bust. By 1978, Plunkett was nearly out of football. At age 31, he joined the Oakland Raiders as a backup, a forgotten man on the roster. But in 1980, starter Dan Pastorini broke his leg, forcing Plunkett into action. Many assumed disaster. Instead, he led the Raiders on a magical run, throwing 18 touchdowns in 11 games and stunning the football world. On January 25, 1981, Plunkett capped the Cinderella story by dismantling the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 15. He threw for 261 yards and 3 touchdowns, earning the game's MVP award. The so-called bust was suddenly a champion, and he wasn't done. 3 years later, he did it again, leading the Raiders to a 38-9 destruction of Washington in Super Bowl 18, cementing his place in NFL history. Plunkett's final stats will never wow anyone. He finished his career with 164 touchdowns and 198 interceptions, but his story is unmatched. From a written-off draft failure to a 2-time Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP, he became proof that redemption in the NFL is always one chance away. Trent Dilfer. In 1994, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers spent the 6th overall pick on Fresno State quarterback Trent Dilfer. The Bucs believed he could lead them into a new era, but the reality was brutal. Dilfer struggled with accuracy and decision-making, posting a dreadful 4-32 record in his first 3 seasons as a starter. Fans groaned as interceptions piled up, and by 1999, he was cut loose, his name forever tied to the dreaded word, bust. Yet the NFL has a funny way of rewriting legacies. In 2000, Dilfer signed with the Baltimore Ravens, a team powered by one of the greatest defenses in history. Baltimore wasn't asking for heroics. They wanted stability. Dilfer delivered just that, going 7-1 as a starter and guiding the Ravens into the postseason. He wasn't flashy, but he avoided the crippling mistakes that had doomed his career in Tampa Bay. On January 28, 2001, Dilfer walked onto the field in Tampa, ironically, the city where he was once booed out of the stadium, for Super Bowl 35. Facing the New York Giants, he threw a 38-yard strike to Brandon Stockley for the game's first touchdown. That throw set the tone, and the Ravens never looked back. Their defense suffocated the Giants, and Dilfer managed the game with precision. Baltimore won 34-7, and the much-maligned quarterback had his ring. Dilfer's career stats: 113 touchdowns against 129 interceptions, paint the picture of an underwhelming first-rounder. But history remembers him differently. He joined an exclusive club, first-round busts who became Super Bowl champions. For Dilfer, redemption came in the most fitting place, hoisting the Lombardi Trophy on the same turf where his career nearly died. David Carr. When the Houston Texans joined the NFL in 2002, they needed a cornerstone. They chose Fresno State quarterback David Carr with the first overall pick, believing he could carry the expansion franchise. Instead, he became the face of failure. Carr was sacked an NFL record 76 times as a rookie, a punishment no young quarterback could withstand. Over 5 years with Houston, he absorbed 249 sacks, threw more interceptions than touchdowns, and never developed into the leader the franchise expected. By 2006, the Texans had moved on. Carr, battered and broken, drifted into backup roles. In Carolina, San Francisco, and later with the New York Giants, he became the archetype of a draft bust, a player taken too high, ruined by circumstance, and unable to escape the stigma of wasted potential. But the NFL is a league of second chances. In 2011, Carr joined the Giants as Eli Manning's backup. Few noticed his presence on the depth chart, but when the Giants marched through the playoffs, shocking Green Bay, San Francisco, and finally the mighty New England Patriots, Carr was right there with them. On February 5, 2012, in Indianapolis, the Giants toppled New England 21-17 in Super Bowl 46. Carr never took a snap, but when confetti fell, he was a champion. It wasn't the fairy tale anyone imagined for the #1 pick of 2002, but it was redemption. the man who carried Houston's burden walked away with a ring. By the way, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Blaine Gabbert. In 2011, the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted Blaine Gabbert 10th overall, convinced he could be their franchise quarterback. Instead, Gabbert became one of the NFL's most ridiculed picks. In 3 years with Jacksonville, he threw just 22 touchdowns against 24 interceptions. His passer rating languished in the 60s, and fans lost patience. By 2014, the Jaguars traded him away, sealing his reputation as one of the decade's worst first-round quarterbacks. But Gabbert refused to fade. He reinvented himself as a backup, bouncing between San Francisco, Arizona, and Tennessee. His numbers never dazzled, but his professionalism and experience made him a trusted veteran in quarterback rooms across the league. In 2019, he signed with Tampa Bay. A year later, Tom Brady arrived, and Gabbert slid into a new role, Brady's understudy. On February 7, 2021, the Buccaneers dominated the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9 in Super Bowl 50. Brady hoisted his 7th Lombardi, but Gabbert got his own ring, validation for a career that had once been written off. And the story didn't end there. Gabbert later joined Kansas City, where he earned another championship ring in 2024 when the Chiefs beat the 49ers in Super Bowl 58. Once mocked as a flameout in Jacksonville, Blaine Gabbert is now a 2-time champion, a reminder that even busts can find glory. Barkevious Mingo. The Cleveland Browns had high hopes when they drafted LSU linebacker Barkevious Mingo 6th overall in 2013. Scouts raved about his speed and length, expecting him to wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks. Instead, he managed just 7 sacks in 4 seasons, struggling to find a role in Cleveland's system. By 2016, the Browns traded him away, and the once promising pick wore the dreaded label bust. Mingo bounced around the league, landing briefly with the Patriots in 2016. His role was limited, mostly special teams and backup linebacker snaps, but Bill Belichick valued his athleticism. That decision would pay off in February 2017. In Super Bowl 51, New England faced Atlanta in what became the most iconic comeback in NFL history. Down 28-3, Tom Brady led the charge back. While Mingo's name wasn't in the spotlight, he was on the field for special teams units and part of the championship roster that pulled off the impossible 34-28 overtime win. Mingo's NFL career never matched his draft billing, and his name often appears on lists of Cleveland's worst first-round picks. But in the end, he left the league with something those lists can't erase: a Super Bowl ring. For Mingo, it was the ultimate silver lining: Dominique Easley. The New England Patriots drafted Dominique Easley in the first round of the 2014 draft, banking on his explosive first step as a defensive tackle. But Easley entered the NFL with a history of knee injuries, and those concerns proved justified. He played just 22 games in 2 seasons with New England, starting only 3. Critics called him one of Bill Belichick's worst first-round picks, and by 2016, the Patriots cut him outright. Yet the label of bust didn't stop Easley from collecting jewelry. In his rookie year, the Patriots marched to Super Bowl 49. Though he spent the postseason on injured reserve, Easley was still part of the roster when New England defeated Seattle 28-24 on February 1, 2015. After New England, Easley signed with the Rams and contributed in rotational snaps, but injuries again derailed his career. He tore his ACL for a 3rd time in 2018, effectively ending his run in the league. His NFL stat line was modest, 6.5 career sacks, but he still achieved what countless first-rounders never do: a Super Bowl ring. Easley's story is a reminder of the NFL's brutal reality. Injuries can turn potential into disappointment, but even as a so-called bust, he walked away with the ultimate prize in football. Danny Shelton. In 2015, the Cleveland Browns selected Washington defensive tackle Danny Shelton with the 12th overall pick. At 6 feet 2 inches and 335 pounds, he was expected to anchor their defensive line for years. But Shelton never became the dominant force scouts projected. Over 3 years in Cleveland, he managed just 1.5 sacks and was often criticized for inconsistency. By 2018, the Browns shipped him to New England for a late-round pick, cementing his status as a bust. Shelton, however, found a new lease on life under Bill Belichick. He became part of the Patriots' defensive rotation in 2018, using his size to eat up blocks and stop the run. While not a star, he filled his role effectively on a team stacked with defensive talent. On February 3, 2019, Shelton earned his moment of glory. In Super Bowl 53, the Patriots shut down the high-powered Los Angeles Rams in a 13-3 slugfest. Shelton's presence in the middle helped limit Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson to just 62 combined rushing yards. Though his name rarely appeared in headlines, he was a champion. Shelton would later bounce to Detroit and the Giants, continuing his journeyman career. But for the rest of his life, he'll be introduced as Danny Shelton, first-round disappointment turned Super Bowl winner. James Carpenter. The Seattle Seahawks drafted offensive lineman James Carpenter with the 25th pick in 2011. Immediately, critics questioned the choice. Carpenter struggled with conditioning, injuries, and consistency early in his career. Local media blasted the selection as a reach, and fans began calling him a bust after he missed most of his rookie year with a torn ACL. Despite the setbacks, Carpenter stuck with the team through the building years of the Legion of Boom. By 2013, the Seahawks had constructed a juggernaut powered by Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, and a ferocious defense. Carpenter, though often criticized, was a starting guard when Seattle stormed into the Super Bowl. On February 2, 2014, Carpenter helped pave the way for one of the most lopsided championship victories in NFL history. The Seahawks demolished the Denver Broncos 43-8 in Super Bowl 48. Carpenter and the offensive line controlled the trenches, allowing Seattle to dominate time of possession and spring big plays on the ground. Though he never became an All-Pro, Carpenter shed the bust label with a ring. He later signed a lucrative deal with the Jets, extending his career. In hindsight, the pick may not have lived up to first-round billing, but the banner in Seattle proves he contributed to something far bigger. Brandon Graham. When the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Brandon Graham 13th overall in 2010, expectations were sky high. But Graham's rookie year was underwhelming, and in 2011, he tore his ACL. For years afterward, critics branded him a bust. In his first 5 seasons, he recorded just 11.5 sacks. With players like Jason Pierre-Paul and Earl Thomas taken after him thriving, Graham seemed destined for disappointment. Graham, however, refused to quit. By 2015, he carved out a role as a relentless pass rusher, valued for his motor and versatility. Slowly but surely, he rebuilt his reputation, though the bust label lingered among impatient fans. Everything changed on February 4, 2018. In Super Bowl 52, with the Eagles clinging to a 38-33 lead over Tom Brady's Patriots, Graham delivered the defining play of his career. He burst through the line and stripped Brady in the closing minutes, setting up the field goal that sealed Philadelphia's first-ever Super Bowl title. That single play erased nearly a decade of criticism. Graham's legacy is now immortal in Philadelphia. From bust talk to Super Bowl hero, he exemplifies patience, resilience, and the long road to redemption. Eric Fisher. The Kansas City Chiefs made Eric Fisher the #1 overall pick in 2013, the first offensive lineman to go first in over a decade. But early on, the pick looked shaky. Fisher struggled in his rookie season, giving up 7 sacks and committing multiple penalties. Critics pounced, calling him one of the weakest top picks in memory. The bust label clung to him for years, even as he developed into a serviceable starter. Fisher's growth mirrored the Chiefs' rise. By 2017, with Andy Reid and a young Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City became a powerhouse. Fisher, though rarely dominant, became a steady blindside protector. He earned Pro Bowl nods in 2018 and 2020, proving he wasn't the disaster many had claimed. The peak came on February 2, 2020. In Super Bowl 54, the Chiefs rallied from 10 points down to beat the San Francisco 49ers 31-20. Fisher started at left tackle, protecting Mahomes as Kansas City ended a 50-year championship drought. The former bust had become a Super Bowl starter. Though Fisher's career later ended abruptly with an Achilles tear, he left behind a complicated legacy, never quite living up to the #1 overall status, but also a Pro Bowler and a world champion. Nelson Agholor. In 2015, the Philadelphia Eagles drafted wide receiver Nelson Agholor 20th overall out of USC. The team envisioned a dynamic playmaker, but Agholor's first 2 seasons were disastrous. He battled drops, confidence issues, and criticism from fans and media alike. By 2016, he had just 648 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns combined, and many in Philadelphia called him a bust. In 2017, something changed. Under head coach Doug Peterson and with Carson Wentz at quarterback, Agholor reinvented himself as a slot receiver. His speed and quick cuts gave defenses problems, and he posted career highs in 768 yards and 8 touchdowns. For the first time, the Eagles had the player they thought they drafted. The real redemption came on February 4, 2018. In Super Bowl 52 against the Patriots, Agholor was electric. He caught 9 passes for 84 yards, moving the chains in critical moments. His steady hands helped keep drives alive, including the game-sealing touchdown drive late in the fourth quarter. Philadelphia stunned New England 41-33, winning its first Lombardi Trophy. While Agholor never became a superstar and eventually left Philly, his Super Bowl performance erased the bust label in the eyes of many. He will always be remembered in Philadelphia as a key part of the team's most historic victory, Morris Claiborne. In 2012, the Dallas Cowboys traded up to draft LSU cornerback Morris Claiborne 6th overall. He was touted as the best defensive back in the draft, but his NFL career didn't match the hype. Plagued by injuries and inconsistency, Claiborne never developed into a shutdown corner. In 5 seasons with Dallas, he recorded just 4 interceptions. Media outlets routinely labeled him a first-round bust. After leaving the Cowboys in 2017, Claiborne signed with the New York Jets, where he put together 2 steady but unspectacular years. Still, the reputation lingered, a former top 10 pick who hadn't lived up to expectations. In 2019, Claiborne joined the Kansas City Chiefs. Though serving mostly as a depth piece, he was on the roster when the Chiefs marched to Super Bowl 54. On February 2, 2020, Kansas City rallied from 10 points down to defeat the 49ers 31-20, ending a half-century title drought. Claiborne's career numbers, 7 interceptions over 8 seasons, never justified the number 6 pick. But he left the league as a Super Bowl champion, a final chapter that few saw coming during his rough years in Dallas. Kadarius Toney. The New York Giants drafted Florida wide receiver Kadarius Toney 20th overall in 2021, hoping for a spark. Instead, he struggled with injuries, inconsistent play, and clashes with the coaching staff. In 12 games as a rookie, he failed to score a touchdown. By mid-2022, the Giants gave up, trading him to the Kansas City Chiefs for mid-round picks. New York fans branded him a bust before his career had even taken off. In Kansas City, however, Toney quickly found a role. With Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, he showcased his speed and versatility, becoming a dangerous gadget player. Though still inconsistent, he flashed enough to be a difference-maker in big games. On February 12, 2023, in Super Bowl 57, Toney delivered. With the Chiefs trailing the Eagles in the fourth quarter, he caught a 5-yard touchdown to give Kansas City the lead. Minutes later, he returned a punt 65 yards, the longest in Super Bowl history, setting up another touchdown. The Chiefs went on to win 38-35, and Toney's contributions proved decisive. While his career remains polarizing, Toney already owns something that validates him forever: a Super Bowl ring. For a player many wrote off in New York, that moment in Arizona defined his legacy. Justin Harrell. The Green Bay Packers made defensive tackle Justin Harrell the 16th pick in the 2007 draft, and the move was immediately controversial. Harrell had battled injuries in college, and the gamble backfired. Over 4 NFL seasons, he played just 14 games and recorded no sacks. Packers fans routinely listed him among the worst first-round picks in franchise history. Despite his struggles, Harrell was on the Packers roster in 2010 when the team made a run to Super Bowl 45. Though he spent the season on injured reserve, his name remained on the official roster, making him a champion by rule. On February 6, 2011, the Packers defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-25 in Arlington, Texas. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdowns and earned MVP honors, while Harrell, from the sidelines, still walked away with a Lombardi Trophy. Harrell's career ended soon after, cut short by repeated injuries. Yet for all the criticism, he is technically a Super Bowl winner. An ironic twist for one of the most infamous busts of the 2000s, Leonard Fournette. When the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted Leonard Fournette 4th overall in 2017, they envisioned a power back to carry their offense. He showed flashes as a rookie, rushing for 1,040 yards, but injuries, off-field issues, and inconsistency clouded his tenure. By 2020, the Jaguars released him outright. Many pundits called him a wasted pick, another entry in Jacksonville's long list of busts. Fournette, however, found redemption in Tampa Bay. Just days after being cut, he signed with the Buccaneers and joined Tom Brady's roster. His regular season was quiet, but in the playoffs, he exploded, earning the nickname Playoff Lenny. He scored in 3 straight playoff games, carrying Tampa's ground attack. In Super Bowl 55 on February 7, 2021, Fournette delivered the signature performance of his career. Against the Kansas City Chiefs, he rushed for 89 yards and a touchdown, adding 46 receiving yards. His 27-yard touchdown run in the third quarter sealed Tampa's 31-9 victory. The once-dismissed bust had become a Super Bowl hero. Though Fournette never became the long-term star Jacksonville envisioned, his playoff run in 2020 defined his career. From disappointment to champion, his story is one of football's greatest turnarounds. Kyle Van Noy. When the Detroit Lions drafted Kyle Van Noy in the second round of 2014, they envisioned a versatile linebacker who could rush the passer and cover space. Instead, his early years were rocky. Injuries limited his rookie season to just 8 games, and when he did play, he struggled to make an impact. In 2.5 seasons, he logged only 1 sack. By 2016, Lions fans and analysts were already using the word bust. Midway through that 2016 season, Detroit cut ties, shipping Van Noy to New England for a late-round pick. Most thought his career was done. But under Bill Belichick, Van Noy thrived. He quickly became a starter, using his intelligence and versatility to fit multiple defensive roles. In 2017, Van Noy was part of the Patriots' run to Super Bowl 51, where New England staged the greatest comeback in NFL history, down 28-3 to Atlanta before winning 34-28 in overtime. Van Noy contributed 5 tackles in that game. 2 years later, he was again a starter when the Patriots shut down the Los Angeles Rams 13-3 in Super Bowl 53, cementing himself as a champion. Phillip Dorsett. The Indianapolis Colts surprised everyone in 2015 when they drafted Phillip Dorsett with the 29th overall pick, despite already having a deep receiver group. The move drew criticism immediately, and Dorsett never found his footing in Indy. In 2 seasons, he totaled just 753 yards and 3 touchdowns, falling far short of first-round expectations. By 2017, the Colts shipped him to New England, his name already stamped as a bust. In New England, Dorsett's role was modest but timely. He wasn't a star receiver, but Tom Brady trusted him in critical moments. His speed stretched defenses, and he developed into a reliable depth option during playoff runs. On February 3, 2019, Dorsett was part of the Patriots squad that beat the Rams 13-3 in Super Bowl 53. Though he caught only 1 pass for 9 yards in the game, his playoff touchdown against the Chargers weeks earlier had helped the team reach the big stage. Dorsett's career numbers remain modest, just over 2,000 career yards, but he has what many first-rounders never touch: a Super Bowl ring. From draft day controversy to champion, his story is proof that sometimes the smallest contributions matter most. Cordarrelle Patterson. The Minnesota Vikings drafted Cordarrelle Patterson 29th overall in 2013, hoping he'd be the next Randy Moss. As a wide receiver, however, Patterson disappointed. In 4 seasons with Minnesota, he managed just 7 receiving touchdowns and never topped 500 yards in a year. Critics labeled him a bust at his position, though his elite kick return skills kept him in the league. After bouncing between Oakland and Chicago, Patterson signed with New England in 2018. There, he found a unique role in Josh McDaniels' offense, lining up as a receiver, gadget player, and even a running back at times. His versatility gave the Patriots an extra weapon in key games. In Super Bowl 53 on February 3, 2019, Patterson made his mark. While the game was a defensive slugfest, he contributed 38 all-purpose yards, including 2 catches and a kickoff return that gave New England field position. The Patriots won 13-3, handing Patterson his first championship. Though he never lived up to his draft slot as a wide receiver, Patterson reinvented himself as an all-pro returner and versatile playmaker. Today, he's remembered less as a bust and more as one of the NFL's most unique weapons, with a Super Bowl ring to show for it. Shea McClellin. The Chicago Bears drafted linebacker Shea McClellin 19th overall in 2012, hoping he'd anchor their defense for years. Instead, his career in Chicago was marked by inconsistency. In 4 seasons, he managed just 7.5 sacks, struggling to justify his first-round status. By 2015, Bears fans had labeled him a bust, and the team let him walk in free agency. McClellan's career took a turn when he joined the New England Patriots in 2016. He played primarily on special teams and as a rotational linebacker, but his hustle and discipline fit perfectly in Belichick's system. One highlight moment came in Week 13, when he blocked a Ravens field goal in a pivotal win. Though injuries kept him from playing in the actual Super Bowl, McClellin was part of the Patriots roster that staged the legendary 28-3 comeback against Atlanta in Super Bowl 51 on February 5, 2017. His contributions throughout the season earned him a championship ring. While McClellin never became the star Chicago expected, he exited the league as a champion, proving that even short and uneven careers can end in triumph. Obi Melifonwu. The Oakland Raiders drafted safety Obi Melifonwu in the second round of 2017 after a standout combine performance. At 6 feet 4 inches with elite athleticism, he was considered a raw but high upside project. Instead, injuries derailed him from the start. He played just 5 games in 2 years with Oakland before being released, earning the bust label almost instantly. Melifonwu got a second chance with the New England Patriots in 2018. Though he rarely saw the field, his physical tools made him an intriguing depth option in Belichick's defensive backfield. That season, New England reached Super Bowl 53 against the Los Angeles Rams. While Melifonwu didn't play a defensive snap in the game, he was part of the active roster that held the Rams to just 3 points in a 13-3 win. For a player written off in Oakland, it was an improbable turn. Melifonwu's NFL career ended shortly after, as injuries continued to plague him. But his short-lived stint still produced a Super Bowl ring, an achievement that countless first-rounders and second-rounders never reach. Did I miss any names? Please mention them in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.